Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Raghupati Raghava Rajaram Atitha Pavana Sitaram Raghupati Raghava Rajaram Patita Pavana Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram 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 Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Sitaram Jaya Sitaram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram 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 Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Sitaram Jai, Sitaram, Sitaram Jai, Sitaram. Sitaram Jai, Sitaram, Sitaram Jai, Sitaram. Sitaram Jai, Sitaram, Sitaram Jai, Sitaram. Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Ram Navami Mahotsav ki, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki, Samaveta Bhaktavinda ki, Itai Gaur Premanandi. All glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to the assembled devotees, all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Good evening, dear devotees. Welcome to this celebration of the appearance of one of the Mahapurusha avatars. Mahapurusha avatar. So this is a specific term used by Srila Rupa Goswami. Srila Rupa Goswami describes in his Laghu Bhagavatamrita, which is a summary, a very, very preliminary summary study of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And within the Srimad Bhagavatam, within this Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Rupa Goswami describes how there are three Mahapurusha avatars. There are many, many avatars explained in the Vedic literatures. The avatars, the incarnations of Krishna are described by, well, most famously by Jayadev Goswami as a list of 10, frequently referenced as Dasa Avatara or the 10 incarnations, as if there are only 10. And sometimes in reference to this list, people will say, actually, basically any text that you read on Hinduism, it will say, Krishna is the 7th incarnation of Vishnu. Really? Krishna's incarnations are described in the Bhagavatam as being unlimited, like the waves in the ocean. So yeah, I don't know how you count the 7th. So Jayadev Goswami gives a list of 10 most colorful incarnations, but by no means the the complete list of incarnations. Bhagavatam actually describes some either 24 or 28 incarnations specifically. It refers to many more, but specifically it gives detailed descriptions of 24. So Krishna's incarnations are numerous. In some descriptions, it is said that Krishna has manifested or appeared within every species. His incarnations are within every species. So we know of the prominent ones, particularly from Jayadev Goswami's list. Amongst the aquatics, we know of the Matsya, fish avatara. Amongst reptiles, we know of the Kurma avatara. Amongst beasts, we know of the boar, Varaha avatara. Amongst I'm going to borrow Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati's reference. He says, amongst humanoids, we have Vamana avatara. So, and then amongst the most advanced human, then we have Ramachandra. Once again, by no means an exhaustive list, but a list of the most colorful. What about the birds? Amongst the birds, we have described in Srimad Bhagavatam, some of you are thinking Garuda. The reference is Hamsa Avatar. Hamsa Avatar, who appears at the request of Lord Brahma to give instructions to his sons, the Santa Kumaras. So like this, amongst all varieties of aquatics, animals, beasts, and humans, we have various incarnations. Some of you might be thinking, what of the insects and the plants? I don't know specifically, but I do know the reference that the incarnations appear within all varieties of species. Okay, so Ram then, he, according to our acharyas, is a special category of avatar called Mahapurusha. Mahapurusha. And Rupa Goswami lists 3 incarnations or personalities as Mahapurusha avatars. What is the defining or distinct characteristic of the 3 Mahapurusha avatars? That is that they all possess, or let us say, not possess, but exhibit qualities and attributes that are not manifested by other avatars. They exhibit potencies and attributes not exhibited by other avatars. So some avatars, they are what is referred to in the Bhagavatam as amsas, as not full avatars, but partial incarnations. Eke chamsa, kolo pumsa. So amongst these expansions or portionary, plenary expansions, some avatars are not full manifestations, but, for example, the Shaktya Avesha avatar is an incarnation that is a partial manifestation, in that a soul, like you and me, a jiva soul, is empowered by Krishna. So Krishna manifests his potency in that human, in that jiva soul, to perform some great activity. Mahapurusha avatars, the three Mahapurusha, they fully exhibit the potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas others will manifest or not to differing degrees. So who are the three? I'm sure your curiosity is aroused. I guess we can do some inductive. So it's Ram Navami, so Ram must be one of them. Then there's Krishna. He's fully the Supreme Personality of Godhead, so he'll be the other. Who's the third? Very good, yeah. So Narasimhadev is the third of these Mahapurusha avatars that Rupa Goswami describes. Our acharyas, they present different analyses, interesting analyses. So one analysis presented by Srila Rupa Goswami, he says that Brahma possesses up to 50 qualities. Is it 50? 60. Brahma possesses up to, it's 50. And Lord Shiva, he possesses up to how many? 55. If you want to know the 55, I'm not going to cite them for you, but you can go to the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. You can go to the Nectar of Devotion. You'll read the list of 50 for Brahma, 55 for Lord Shiva, given with references to the Shastras. Then Rupa Goswami, he says that Lord Narayana, he exhibits 60. Once again, his qualities are unlimited, but in this analysis, then we get this differentiation. 50, 55, 60. It's just for giving us a reference for understanding. By no means are Krishna's qualities limited to 60 or 64. It's an analysis, and it's an interesting analysis. Yeah. So, Mahapurusha avatars, in principle, they manifest these 64 qualities. Okay. So those four qualities of distinction that we say only Krishna has, not even Narayan. You're saying Ram and Nrsingadev manifest those as well. So what are those four qualities of distinction? Lila Madhurya, Prema Madhurya, Rupa Madhurya, and Venu Madhurya. Pastimes that are incredibly sweet. That they are surrounded by loving, sweet, loving devotees. That their forms are particularly attractive and beautiful. And that they play the flute. Some of you are thinking, well, I totally get how that works with Krishna, but Nrsingadev, I never saw him with a flute. So yes, this is very esoteric, but we can say this, that these three, they exhibit most incredible pastimes. They are sweet. Nrsingadev is fierce and ferocious, but his dealings with Prahlad are most sweet. He takes Prahlad on his lap, he cuddles him, and he's a cat, right? So he licks Prahlad as well with affection. That's how cats express their affection for their young. He asks Prahlad to take boon. So this Vatsalya bhava is very strong in Nrsingadev. This parental, like a parent can be fierce in protecting their children. Nrsingadev is Krishna, who's very fierce in protecting his little boy, Prahlad. In Ram, so there's sweetness in Narasimhadev's pastimes. His form is very beautiful. It's fierce, but it's also very beautiful. And Prahlad, he's the most loving devotee. Does he play a flute? Shri Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. He doesn't play a flute. However, there is some obscure reference that I have not read, but only heard of. Which says that at the beginning of creation, when Brahma receives initiation, he receives it through the flute. You can read about that in the Brahma Samhita. And apparently in a previous millennium, a previous Brahma, he was a devotee of Narasimhadev. And so when he receives initiation from Nrsingadev, Nrsingadev takes out a flute. I know, I haven't read that. I've been told that. So any Shastris want to do the research to follow up to find that reference? I would love to see it. Okay, similarly, yeah, so Ram, we don't see playing a flute either. But in terms of the sweetness of pastimes, definitely we see that with these particular incarnations. The way it's explained is this. So some of you might be taking my flute reference for Nrsingadev as a bit, what's the word? Well, a bit of a stretch. Okay, is that what we thank you. A bit of a stretch. I have heard that, but I have a better explanation. With the Mahapurusha avatar, they have the potential to manifest 64. Whether they do so or not is their prerogative. That's more satisfying, isn't it? Satisfying. Okay, so these three then are described as particularly important and significant. And today we are focused on glorifying Sri Ramachandra. In his pastimes, we find the exemplar. So I said earlier how our acharyas have described him as the most advanced human being, in that his behavior is in every way exemplary, as the perfect son to his parents, Dasarath, Kaushalya, even Kaikeyi, Sumitra. He was always the perfect son. He was the perfect brother to Bharat, to Lakshman, Satrugna. He was the perfect master to his citizens, to his subjects. To Hanuman, his servant. He is the perfect husband to his wife Sita. He is the perfect friend to Sugriva. He is the perfect adversary to Ravana. In every way, he is perfect. Ram is perfection. And in fact, how Valmiki comes to write Ramayana is that he's sitting with his disciples in his ashram, pondering a question. Valmiki has just seen something very disturbing. What did he see? He saw a hunter shoot 2 birds. It was spring, so these birds, they were in union. And as Valmiki went to the river to take his bath, and he was observing the beauty of the Lord's creation, the beauty of spring, he saw those birds. He thought, how beautiful is Krishna's creation. And as he was appreciating the beauty of Krishna's creation, there was an arrow that flew through the air and pierced these 2 birds and killed them. And he uttered a lament. And this lament took the form of a poem. Unfortunately, I don't have the words committed to memory. But essentially he says, who has committed such a cruel act? To kill 2 living entities while they were distracted in material pleasure. But this verse is very clever. It has many, many meanings and word plays. But he composed it in his grief and spontaneously. And it came in a meter that we call today as anustup. Anustup meter. So we are all very familiar with anustup meter because Bhagavad Gita is basically composed in anustup. Dharma kshetre kurukshetre sarmaveta yuyutsava mamaka pandavascheva kima kurvata sanya. That's anustup. So it can be chanted in different melodies, but essentially the number of syllables, that's a particular meter. And so Valmiki, he uttered this lament that came out as a poem, anustup, that we today call as anustup, but at the time that meter didn't exist. And then he returned to his ashram and he sat with his disciples and he said, let me tell you what just happened. I was at the river, I saw these birds, and then a hunter's arrow killed them. And he said, why is man so cruel? So he poses this question to his disciples. And then he says, why are we so flawed? And then he says, is there an example of somebody who is just perfect, without these flaws, without these frailties that we all carry, that we all possess? And so he poses this question to his disciples rhetorically, and they begin to discuss. Upanishad, sit near and discuss. Sit near and listen. And so Valmiki and his disciples are having this discussion. Is there a perfect person? What a great topic. If we can identify a perfect person, that will be the role model that we can all follow. So as they're having this discussion, a divine being appears in their midst. Some of you must be thinking, well, who would that be? Narada Muni, he's usually the divine being that shows up at opportune moments. This opportune moment, it was Brahma. So that's unusual. Brahma appears in the ashram and he says, Valmiki, you have asked the perfect question. Is there a perfect person who is an exemplar of perfection in all human relations as the perfect son, disciple, parent, brother, sister, sibling, spouse, and so on. You have asked the right question. This is a brilliant question. And I'm so happy that you're considering it. Because the answer to your question is that yes, there is such a person, and that person is Sri Ramachandra. Brahma doesn't end there. He says, so he told Valmiki, so I have some important seva for you, some important service for you. What was the service? You are to write the pastimes of this perfect person. How will I write it? Brahma said, do not worry for that. By my blessings, you will see. You will see the Ramayana. So Trikalagya, the advanced sage, can see past, present, and future. Just like the Bhagavad Gita, Sanjaya, he's seen the Kurukshetra battlefield. He's seen this conversation between Krishna and Arjuna. Not just seen, he's also hearing. And he's sitting with Dhritarashtra in Hastinapura and reporting, this is what I see. So he's able to see with the mind's eye. Dhritarashtra is therefore asking him, Kimako Varta Sanjaya, what are they doing, O Sanjaya? They're at that sacred place, Dharma Kshetra. And Sanjaya, he speaks, by the blessings of my Guru Vyas, I am able to see, and I can tell you. And so Brahma similarly gave this blessing to Valmiki. You will see. Dur Darshan. Little joke there for those of you from India. Okay. Doordarshan is the name of the national television station. It means seen far, or television. So Brahma gave him a blessing of television. You will see these pastimes by distance viewing. And Brahma told him one more thing. And he said, and that little lament that you composed earlier, that will be the meter. That little lament that you composed about the birds being shot. So you expressed that poem as it was an expression of your grief. And Ramayana, it is a story of viraha, of separation. There is much lamentation. And so that spontaneous expression and that meter that came to you in your grief, you will use that meter to compose the Ramayana. So today we celebrate that day of Ram's appearance. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he celebrated the appearance of Sri Ramachandra. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we have a description by Krishnadas Kaviraj Thakur, how on Diwali and Ram Navami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his associates, they would celebrate. How would they celebrate? Somebody remember? How we are doing? Sit down, have a class, kirtan, some prasadam, maybe that as well. But something else that they did that's super exciting that we don't do. A long drama. Okay, yeah. They dressed up. Fancy dress. You read it there in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. They dressed up as Ram, Lakshman, monkeys. And they celebrated Ram's pastimes. So, some ideas for you. Fancy dress. Ramayan theme. Yeah, in Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita translation, there's one of the artists has actually made a painting of Lord Chaitanya and his associates dressed up, celebrating Lord Ramachandra's festival. So there you are. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we have some different references to Lord Ramachandra in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, so let us consider those. We are followers of Lord Chaitanya, so we will remember Ram by also remembering Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's one reference, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's celebrations, dressing up as Ram and his associates, monkeys, Ravana, they would do the whole thing. Battle, build a bridge, Lanka. We also have in the Chaitanya Charitamrita something most wonderful, and that is that when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visits Jagannath Puri for the first time, he goes to the temple alone. Why does he go alone? So he has a small group with him traveling from Shantipur to Jagannath Puri, but once he gets just outside of Jagannath Puri, he leaves the group and goes alone. Yeah, so he wants to go to Jagannath alone, but he takes an opportunity of becoming angry at Nityananda Prabhu. And so he chastises them and says, I'm not traveling with you, and he leaves. Nityananda Prabhu did something pretty radical. He broke Lord Chaitanya's danda, 3 pieces, threw it into the river. That's another story. I'm just going to leave that one hanging for you. Why did Lord Nityananda break Lord Chaitanya's danda? You will not have the answer in this class. So Mahaprabhu, he goes alone to Jagannath, and when he sees Lord Jagannath, the description is that he sees Shamsundar. He sees Krishna himself, threefold bending form Krishna. That's who Mahaprabhu sees on the altar. And he faints. What would you do if you saw Krishna standing before you? Threefold bending form with his flute. Lord Chaitanya, that's who he saw, and he fainted. And so people gathered around, what's going on here in front of the deity? And so he's not moving. He doesn't even appear to be breathing. Call the doctor. And so Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he's the chief Pandit. He's the Raj Guru, the guru of Maharaj Prataparudra, the king. So he comes to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to inspect him, and he says, we don't need a doctor here. This is very deep samadhi. He has some different ways to inspect Mahaprabhu. He takes a little piece of cotton wool, holds it beneath Lord Chaitanya's nostrils, and he's able to see a very faint movement. He's breathing. He's not dead. He's breathing. But he's in a very deep state of internal absorption, samadhi. So he tells the priests, carry him over to my house. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this beautiful 25-year-old sannyasi, tall, beautiful lotus eyes, hands to this beautiful, beautiful form. He's lying there unconscious, faint in front of the deity. Sarvabhauma, he's like, okay, he's in deep samadhi, but he's just too handsome to be a sannyasi. Get him over to my house. We're going to have to, he's like too emotional, fainting in public. Sannyasi, handsome, young. I'm going to have to give him some training in Vedanta, teach him to be more stoic. Control your emotions. Don't faint. And so he has Chaitanya Mahaprabhu over at his place, and then eventually Nityananda Prabhu and the others, they arrive at the temple. They're asking people, have you seen a tall, young sannyasi, the one that fainted? Oh yeah, that could be him. He is over at the house of the Rajguru, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. And so they go around to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya's house, knock on the door. Yes, we're looking for a tall sannyasi, Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya is his name. Oh yeah, he's here. You're with him. Okay, come inside. So they are invited inside, and they gather around Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they bring him out of his samadhi. How? By chanting. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu opens his eyes. Where am I? You're in the house of the Rajguru. So Sarvabhauma comes to meet Lord Chaitanya, and he says, you're too young, you're too emotional to be a sannyasi. And anyway, you're a Bharati sannyasi, which isn't like first class. So I can make you a Saraswati sannyasi, but I'm also going to have to give you some training in Vedanta, so you can be more stoic, self-regulated. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, sure, okay, that's most generous of you to offer to teach me Vedanta. So he sits in front of Sarvabhauma, and Sarvabhauma teaches Atato, Brahma Jigyasa, Janmadyasya Yata, and so on. For a whole week, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sits there listening, not saying anything. And so after a week, Sarvabhauma, he says, look, I've been speaking for a week. Do you understand anything that I'm saying? Because you haven't asked one question. I have no idea if you're getting what I'm trying to teach you. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Vedanta is clear to me. Your explanations are a bit foggy. Your explanations are foggy due to the fog of impersonalism. So Sarvabhauma says, okay, so can you explain Vedanta yourself then? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, well, if that is your request, I can do so. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches Vedanta to Sarvabhauma. And after hearing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's explanations, Sarvabhauma, the Rajguru, becomes Lord Chaitanya's disciple. So this is a most wonderful event. Sarvabhauma, the greatest of all scholars, in fact, described as an incarnation of Brihaspati, becomes a disciple of Lord Chaitanya. And so then Lord Chaitanya and Sarvabhauma, he doesn't just become a disciple. Because he's so brilliant in his understanding and his heart opens with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's bhakti teachings of Vedanta, that he becomes fully Krishna conscious. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he understands that Lord Chaitanya is Krishna. From Lord Chaitanya's explanations, he says, you're Krishna. And then he offers prayers to Lord Chaitanya as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu shows him this wonderful manifestation of his divinity called Sad-bhuja. Sad, 6 bhuja limbs, or 6 arms. The 6-armed incarnation or manifestation of the Lord, Sad-bhuja. And you may have seen depictions of Sad-bhuja, a most wonderful manifestation of the divinity. So it's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with 2 arms standing, but then he has also 2 arms of Krishna holding the flute, and 2 arms of Ramachandra holding the bow and the arrow. So, oh, you have that in the, is on the front cover or where? Is there a picture in that Back to Godhead? Oh, right there on the front. Okay, I can't see from here. Okay, so Sad-bhuj. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then thereby manifesting as Sri Ramachandra. So he doesn't just dress up on Ram's celebratory day, but he also manifests himself as Sri Ramachandra. There's another instance where we have Ram Lila appear in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. Just one? Well, just one that I will speak about next. And that is when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he stays in Puri for some time and then decides to travel for his Sankirtan preaching mission, and he goes south. So one of his great preaching journeys, he goes to South India. And there is a wonderful description of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's meeting a Brahmana in South India. And this Brahmana was completely absorbed in Ram Lila. Mahaprabhu stayed with him. And so Mahaprabhu would ask him, so will you cook? And the Brahmana, he would reply something like this. He'll say, Lakshman's off gathering the firewood. He will also bring some fruits and roots from the forest. And when he returns, Mother Sita will prepare something, and Ram will have his dinner. After that, we may have some prasad. That was how he would respond. He was totally absorbed in Ram Lila. That was his bhavana. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu really enjoyed his association. He stayed with him, this Ram Bhakta. This Ram Bhakta, he would also cry. He would cry quite unconsolably. And Mahaprabhu would ask him, so what's the matter? Why are we crying? He says, Ravana has kidnapped Sita. And then Mahaprabhu would say something like, well, Ram's rescued her, so it's all fine. And then this Brahmana would say, no, but how could that ogre, that Rakshasa, touch Mother Sita's divine body? And he would cry. So Mahaprabhu didn't really have an answer for him, like, how did that happen? Yeah, Mother Sita, she's touched by this Rakshasa. And this Brahmana really couldn't get over that problem. And so Mahaprabhu left that Brahmana and continued his journey further south. And he went to the temple of Adikeshava. And while in the temple of Adikeshava, you can still visit that temple today, outside of Trivandrum, Tiruvananthapuram. So in Tiruvananthapuram, there is the Padmanabha Swami temple, and outside there is a temple of Keshav. So Keshav, Padmanabha, and then there's another temple, there's a triangle, Janardhan Swami. Adi Keshav is Karnadakashaya Vishnu. He has no lotus. He lies in the Karna ocean. Padmanabha Swami is Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. He's lying in the Garbha ocean with a lotus. And Padmanabha Swami is Janardhan. He's the Paramatma in the heart. Kirdakashaya Vishnu. So these three, they are wonderful, wonderful deities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited each of those temples. He danced in great ecstasy in each of them. And you today can go and visit those temples in Kerala, and you will see them, and your hearts will dance in ecstasy. Actually, in the Padmanabha Swami temple, there are many beautiful carvings, and one of them is Shiva's playing a drum, and Brahma has kartals. Right? Brahma, foreheads, got his kartals out for the kirtan. Okay. I was like so excited when I saw that. He's one of the carved on one of the pillars in front of the deity. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in the Adi Keshav temple, and he found some obscure manuscripts. One of them is the Brahma Samhita, and he copied out the Brahma Samhita and brought that back to the Vaishnavas in Jagannath Puri. It was further distributed. Jiva Goswami wrote a commentary, and others have written commentaries. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu found that manuscript in the Adi Keshava temple. He also found, while in that temple, a manuscript from it was the Agni Purana. And this passage explained how when Ravana kidnapped Mother Sita, Agni Dev, the Lord of Fire, he intervened. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu copied out that passage, traveled back to where that Brahmana was, and said, "Look, I found it. You can stop crying. This is what I found in the Agni Purana. That when Ravana went to kidnap Mother Sita, Agni, he thought, wow, how can pure Sita be touched by an impure Rakshasa like Ravana? So he quickly did a switch up, and he put a Maya Sita in front of Ravana and kept actual Sita protected. And so all Ravana interacted with was a Maya Sita, an illusory Sita. And then at the end of when Ravana had been killed and Sita liberated, Sita built that fire and entered into the fire, and Agnidev brought her out and said, "Here, Ram, this is your wife Sita." So the Maya Sita entered the fire, and the actual Sita came out. So Ram, he read this to the Brahmana. The Brahmana was overjoyed and satisfied. So here we have some nice examples then of Sri Ramachandra and how he's absorbed in Ramayana. We always think of Ramachandra as absorbed in Krishna Lila. And in the stories we've been considering today, or these pastimes described today, we've also been, we see how Sri Ramachandra is also very much absorbed in Ramayana Lila as well. Ram Lila, one of the Ramachandra being one of the Mahapurusha avatars. Shri Ram Navami Ke, Shri Ramachandra Ke, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.